Discuss all the happenings from today. DOJ senior attorney and former federal prosecutor Tammy Allison and former federal prosecutor and criminal attorney Florina Altschiller. Thank you, ladies, so much for joining me this evening. I'm going to start with you, Florina, about your impressions of the testimony so far today. They're in an afternoon recess, but it must be difficult for a jury to sit there and watch video, pre-taped evidence of testimony, take notes, because, I mean, these witnesses are important for the prosecution's case.
You know, not only is it difficult to watch, but it's difficult to hear because of the quality of the audio. And so this is a very circumstantial case involving facts and circumstances from 40 years ago. You have non-live video testimony of witnesses that are not really connecting with the jury because the jury doesn't have the ability to really look them in the eyes, right? They're not there in person. And then the audio, you really have to focus and pay attention. Or you could, read the writing from the script if the jury chooses to follow that closely. It is really hard to captivate the jury as an audience to begin with when you're live, but when you're talking about facts and circumstances 40 years removed with faded memories and then recorded prior testimony of witnesses, it's difficult to keep the jury engaged, I think.
Oh, certainly. It's difficult for us to follow along. I'm really glad they have the transcription at the bottom of the screen to help us follow along the testimony. I'm going to get your take, Tammy, on the testimony today, particularly Halpernon's testimony. He knew Kathy Durst. He had a phone conversation with her where she detailed how scared she was of her husband, Bob Durst, but also when he advised her to, do something about it, she had some hesitation, some reservations. She didn't want to affect the pending divorce proceeding. How did you think the testimony came across in showing the state of mind of Kathy in 1982?
Yes, first, thank you for having me. I believe that testimony is going to help the defense, if anything. That testimony showed that the doctor that she was on rotation with, he didn't have that sense of urgency for her well-being at the time that she expressed to him her concern over her own well-being and her fear. The fact that he waited almost 30 years before he alerted authorities to that conversation that he had with her, it chips away at that beyond a reasonable doubt burden that the prosecution has to meet. And unfortunately, I do believe that the defense is going to chip away at that and really hone in on that in order to, again, exonerate this individual who seems to miraculously get away with a lot.
Right. Florina, to Tammy's point about the defense scoring some points, one of the themes on cross-examination has been Kathy Durst's alleged cocaine use affecting her schooling, a reason why she would want to disappear. Even during the latest witness, James Harney testimony, some other name of a man, Michael Burns. They're throwing out all of these other possibilities. Do you think that at the end of the day is going to raise some reasonable doubt for this jury?
That's a great question, Chanley. I think that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing as defense attorneys, which is raising reasonable doubt. But I personally don't think those theories pass the smell test. I think that if you apply common sense, you realize that somebody's body does not disappear because they overdose on cocaine in an alleyway somewhere, right? You don't die from alcohol poisoning and then your body's nowhere to be found. So common sense says that there was criminality at play here and not that she just got trashed somewhere and her body's nowhere to be found, or she had a cocaine habit and somehow her body's nowhere to be found. So, they're throwing whatever they think will stick at the wall. I don't think that those two areas are particularly compelling.
Good points. And jurors bring their common sense to court to work every day. We know that as attorneys. I want to talk to you, Tammy, though, about the behavior of the defendant. Now, he looks pretty frail, sitting there in his wheelchair inside the well of the courtroom with his back to the jury. But at times he turns there, as you can see. The jurors can get an up-close look at Robert Durst. We have a field producer who keeps sending us notes from inside the courtroom, and he does at times, Tammy, scribble notes, and he'll pass them to his attorney. even with his medical conditions, he seems very in tune and engaged in his defense.
Yes, I have noticed that. I do believe that that is a tactic by the defense in order to gain some sympathy as far as the fact that he is older, he's frail, he's in a wheelchair. Can this individual have been capable of all of these egregious murders? And the fact that he gets away with it over and over again, could he really be responsible for this? Especially given the fact that there is no real hardcore evidence. We also know that most of this is based off of circumstantial evidence. And as a former federal prosecutor, that is one of those very difficult types of cases to prove beyond a reasonable doubt, especially when we're talking about someone whose body has never been found in this situation. So him turning around, it's very strategic on the defense's part so they can get a really good look at him and his physical condition, as well as really take in his age and couple that with the circumstantial evidence so that they can, go back and deliberate. And hopefully, I think the defense is hoping that they poke a hole and have some of that doubt and that beyond a reasonable doubt burden of proof.
For sure. And Florina, let's quickly touch on the current testimony the jury is hearing from James Harney. He's a former New York State police officer, and he investigated the disappearance of Kathy Durst. So far, what do you make of his testimony, both on cross and direct, or direct and cross?
I mean, look, the fact of the matter is, Durst is not on trial for Kathy's murder. But unfortunately, Kathy's murder is something that needs to be proven in this trial in order to establish that he killed a witness to that murder. So you have a trial within a trial. I don't think that the law enforcement officer is particularly compelling, and there's a reason for that, right? They were never able to get him on this 1980s murder of his wife. There wasn't enough evidence. That's why New York wasn't able to try him and get a conviction. That's why this is a 40-year-old murder. That's why we're referring now to videotape testimony that's difficult to listen to, difficult to follow, and difficult to use to get over beyond the reasonable doubt standard. But I think, though, if the jury realizes that they're not trying to convict him of the murder of the wife, they just need to have enough evidence to believe that he killed a witness to that murder and convict him of that other murder. And we've had quite a few days of testimony now, and we're hearing all about the wife. We haven't even yet gotten into the California murder, which is what he's on trial for. So this is a very dense trial that's going to go on for a very long time.
Yes.
And by the time we get to closing arguments, we're going to forget about today's witness.
Yeah, that's a whole different topic we may can talk about later in the show. But Tammy and Florina, you're going to hang out with me. It's Ladies Night here on Court TV this evening. We have a lot more to get ahead this hour. We're going to bring you back into the courtroom, into the Jinx murder trial, once that testimony resumes in California. And in this case, we've heard a lot about the disappearance of Robert Durst's wife, Kathleen. Well, up next, we'll take an in-depth look at her life and their relationship. And then later, we'll take you into Kentucky for a case about a pilot on trial for triple murder. Jury selection is about to get underway there, and we will update you on that trial as well. And of course, we'll zero in on a big piece of evidence in the triple murder, a little shell casing with a big story behind it. You're watching Court TV, your front row seat to justice.